right, welcome back to the podcast.
They had us back for another podcast.
I know.
We got 80 hits. That's 79 more than I anticipated.
Maybe 78, because you were going to watch it twice.
That is true.
My wife hasn't even watched the podcast. That's got to be like another one at least that we have in the bag.
She's smarter than us.
All right, well let's get started. What do we have to talk about?
We have NFL hires. We're going to talk about how bad the Falcons are. Why Matt Ryan sucks.
No.
He does suck.
Stop.
Whatever. I can throw a ball farther than he can. Your daughter can throw a football farther than you can.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
We're going to review last week's playoffs in which I crushed you. I'm pretty sure I was 4-0.
By a whole game.
No,
You're pretty sure you were 4-0.
I was pretty sure I'm 4-0. We're going to talk about this week's playoff games. We're going to talk about the Rams going to London and what that means for NFL in another country. I'm not really too sure how I feel about that. We're going to talk about the NBA and why LeBron James is great and why Kobe Bryant is overrated. We're also going to talk about the...
Shout out to Joe Lemieux.
Really? Do you really want the White House?
All right. Well, let's start with the Falcons.
Oh, Manny Pacquiao, we're up now.
We're going to talk now. We're going to talk about Manny. But let's start with the Falcons. They hired both their coordinators. And the first guy they hire is the offensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the league's worst offense.
Nick Chulo, what does that do with West Virginia football?
By the way, welcome to the podcast, Crazy Uncle Nick, who will be joining us periodically.
Crazy Uncle Nick.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Crazy Uncle Nick.
Crazy Uncle Nick.
That's a great nickname. There are a lot of crazy.
It's funny because it's true. Now, so I'll continue, please.
Look, where do you want me to start? The guy was dead last.
The offense was dead last. I mean, look, I'm not trying to defend the pick because it's hard to do.
Do you think he's better than Mike Mularkey?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, my dog's better than Mike Mularkey, honestly.
If this
my
was
dog's
a video
nice.
podcast, I would be like, you right now.
Well, he's got to be better than Mike Mularkey.
How?
Well, because he was coaching for a team that's not a real NFL franchise, and he had a couple of decent years. He's got time in his background. The first or second year he was there, their offense was in the top 10. They did pretty well. But when you coach for a franchise that intentionally fires your quarterback right before the year starts 2 different times just so they can save money, you're not going to do well. They don't have any tools there. I'm not saying it's a good pick, but I'm saying it's got to be better than Mularkey. But it's a public relations disaster.
I agree with you on the last point. It is a public relations disaster.
There's no telling. Maybe he'll be good. He coached really well on the offense at Boise State, coached really well on the offense at Arizona State. His record in the NFL is not encouraging.
Here's my thing. If you're going to pick an offensive coordinator, then I want you to pick some from... You could have taken a quarterback's coach from the Packers.
Sure.
And I would have been okay
Yep.
with that. Not that he's never, even though that person may never been an offensive coordinator. There's nothing that happened in Jacksonville that makes you say, this guy's a competent offensive coordinator.
No, that's true. And the thing that upsets me about the Falcons when it comes to this sort of thing is this attitude they have that they should always remain publicly calm and publicly collected. And after this pick, they acted like it was not a controversial pick. And if you paid any attention at all to the reaction of the fans online, on the radio, and a bunch of other locations, everybody freaked out because there is no reason that Atlanta fans have to be optimistic.
The only reason, wait, was he on the staff when Mike Smith was on the staff in Jacksonville?
He claims, I don't know the answer to that question. I've read a couple interviews where he said they work together. Mike Smith has a good relationship with him. That's not an excuse. That's not a good reason to hire the guy. I mean, the only reason that Atlanta fans have not risen up in outrage is because a couple days later they hired Nolan, who is a legitimate defensive coordinator.
All right, let's talk about Nolan because that actually
makes you happier.
Makes me happy.
Yeah.
There's one logistical nightmare with Nolan. He runs a 3-4 defense.
He said we're not going to do it.
He's going to run a 4-3.
That is the word coming out of the Falcons
that means
camp.
We have to keep Ray Edwards and.
Well, I don't know what it means about personnel, but
okay.
they have not. He has not unequivocally said that we will not run a 3-4. He said he doesn't want to change us. He said a couple other things that are kind of non-committal that would lead you to believe we're going to keep the 4-3.
If you're picking a defensive coordinator, Mike Nolan is high up on the list.
Yep.
There's nothing
probably number 2, right behind Spagnuolo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Behind Spagnuolo, and unfortunately, he goes to the Rams. I'm sorry, not the Rams, but the Saints.
Yeah, that's what we need. It would be great for the Saints to have a better defense.
Yes, perfect. That's terrific. I hate the Saints. I hate Drew Brees.
I don't hate the Saints. I don't know why Falcons fans hate the Saints so much. We owned them for so many years.
You know why I hate the Saints? I mean, this is a transition over to Spagnuolo, but I'm going to get back to Nolan in a second. This is why I hate the Saints. They've had like 3 good seasons out of the, 50 they've been in existence. And you think they're like, great. And they're lucky. Peyton's dad told Peyton to throw the Super Bowl. That's the only reason.
He told him to, look, New Orleans fans have every right to be excited about their team. They sucked forever. As a fan of all the Atlanta sports teams, I sympathize with them. What with their sad history and Katrina, they deserve to be happy about their team. I don't begrudge them that at all. I wish we had Drew Brees. I wish we had an offense that good. Drew Brees. But
it's because of New Orleans I had to listen to
I always hated Tampa Bay. I always hated Tampa Bay. I mean, they like to kill Mike Vick. He's lucky he got out of those games alive.
I was a huge Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice fan for some reason.
I mean, they were good. I just didn't want him to kill my quarterback.
I don't know. Like, I just have a deep-seated hatred for anything that comes from New Orleans.
All right, so we got Nolan, who seems like a decent pick.
Nolan's a great hire. Will be fine.
We'll see what happens in the offense. I'm really not excited. And I'll tell you what else. This needs to be said publicly. The state of Atlanta sports journalism.
Comments are made by Joe Bellon and Joe Bellon alone.
That's right.
At JoeBellon.com.
There is no Joe. How many times do you tell there's no Joe Bellon? I need to like buy that domain before somebody snaps it up. The state of Atlanta sports journalism is wretched. This pick comes out. Everyone lines up behind it with the exception of Jeff Schultz, who puts out a blog that's very negative about it and then updates the blog, and all of a sudden it's not as negative after a couple of hours. I don't understand how no one in the Atlanta sports journalism community stands up and says this is a bad idea. The only people that say that are the people on the radio who aren't formally affiliated with any of the major media outlets. It's ridiculous.
They're not affiliated with any other major outlets. Jeff Schultz sucks. The coverage, for football and pro basketball and calling out really bad ownership and coaching is wretched. They accept mediocrity. It's why I don't buy the AJC. I don't even know if the AJC exists. People should stop buying that newspaper. It's only good for the obituaries.
Well, their sports coverage is awful. All the people that I've read who are associated with it are awful. The people the Falcons have tweeting about them are awful. They all act like it is unreasonable to think the Cutter pick is bad.
Did you read any of the tweets that came out?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Matt Ryan is sacked. Looks like the game's over, folks. And that was the last tweet.
Yep. There was a sudden silence.
They should be silenced. Matt Ryan sucks.
All right. Well, so much for the Falcons. We'll see what happens. I try to have optimism about the Cutter pick. I am not optimistic.
I just want to say this. I want this to be the unofficial, not even remotely associated, official podcast of Terrell Suggs and the Baltimore Ravens. I want to be a part of Balsa Hart University. Sizzle.
Just jump right on the bandwagon. Jump on it.
You know what? Not only did I jump on the bandwagon, I am sleeping on the bandwagon.
Did you say Baltimore Ravens, except to say they were going to beat the Texans last week?
No, I think you did. I had Ravens.
That's actually a good segue. Let's talk about our picks from last week.
Let's talk about how I crushed you.
By a whole game.
Crushed you.
Congratulations.
Crushed you.
You're a genius.
I am the smartest man on the planet. Call me Eric Bayless.
You're a troll. I'll call you Eric Bayless for that reason.
That's fine.
All right, let's talk about the picks.
All right, so in the Saints 49ers game, me and Joe went head up. Joe picked the Aints. I picked the 49ers. I stood up for truth and greatness.
And we both said it would be a close game.
We did.
It was. Neither one of us could really decide. You picked the 49ers, I picked the Saints. I was wrong. But I will say this. I was right to say that I would have been really, really surprised if the 49ers could have contained the Saints' offense. They didn't. At the end of that game, the Saints were marching at will. The really shocking thing is either how bad the Saints' defense was or how good the 49ers' offense was.
Well, I said it on the podcast last week. I said the New Orleans Saints' defense was terrible.
Yeah.
I know they run very well.
Did you say that?
Oh,
I said they were better than the Packers. Maybe they were.
The tape.
It's not a tape.
Oh, is it?
No, it's on my computer.
Is it on
but nevertheless,
right.
I think we split that game. You legitimately won. I agree you did, but it was close.
Do we even need to discuss the Pats-Broncos game?
Just to say, everything I want to say about that game is probably not appropriate for the podcast. But the Patriots demonstrated what the difference is between a professional team and a team that's 8-8.
Let me say this really quickly as Schoolio, Uncle Nick right there goes off. There's the phone. Blowing up the lady.
Hey now.
Just want to say this. People are trying to give Tebow a pass because apparently he got hurt in the third quarter of the game. Now, I would like to point out to everyone who brings up this.
If he got hurt in the third minute.
Wait. They said the third quarter. It was 35-7 at halftime.
Yeah.
It's not like the injury prevented him from playing well. He stunk before the injury.
How soon was it before that game was over? Into the first quarter.
No, yeah. I think it was like 21-7.
Yeah.
That game was over. Listen.
Yeah.
Tim Tebow,
the Patriots' offense is good.
John Elway, trade Tim Tebow to the Falcons for Matt Ryan. We'll do it in heartbeat.
Yeah. But we're going to talk about the two games that we just talked about. How you evaluate those is going to have a big impact on what you think about the two games that are being played this week.
This is true. Ravens, Texans.
We thought the Ravens would win.
Yeah, we thought the Ravens would win. I think we both were right. Listen. What's the running back for the Texans?
Foster.
That is a man.
Yeah.
That is a man made of bronze.
So remember the question I asked you last week, though? My question was, if the quarterback was healthy, right, would you have picked them? And I think in retrospect, you have to say, right, Schaub would have made a difference.
Schaub would have made a difference. You want to throw all those interceptions.
I don't know. Uncle Nick, what's your position on this?
Schaub's way better.
If Schaub had been healthy, would they have won?
Absolutely.
Because it was one touchdown.
Team.
One touchdown. Is the Ravens' defense really that good if they let T.J. Yates and a banged-up Texans offense score that many points?
What was the score?
The Texans scored 14. It was like, what, 21-14 is the final?
T.J. Yates was not good at North Carolina.
He hasn't played terribly for a third-string quarterback, but...
No, here's the thing. He's a third-string quarterback. They scored... The running game, I think, is what surprised me more now because the Ravens are stout up front, and Arian Foster is just a grown man, and... that game was close to the end.
We were right about the Patriots. We were right about the Ravens.
Boston Hard University.
Yeah, and then we come to the Giants game with the Packers.
Listen, I said on the podcast...
Here comes the backpedaling. The backpedaling starts.
I don't even know what backpedaling is. I cannot spell that word. I said that the only way the Giants win that football game is if the front four plays amazing.
Was that before or after we both agreed that the Giants were going to get housed?
Oh, no, the Giants suck. There's no question about that.
Well, look. I was totally wrong. And I think in our defense, you cannot look at the Giants-Falcons game and say, wow, the Giants were good. You look at the Giants-Falcons game and say, wow, the Falcons suck.
I looked at the Giants game and I was like, wow, a professional team is playing a JV high school team.
Well, look, our defense did really well in the first half. Sure. Did really well until the offense couldn't do anything.
Listen, the reason that the Giants won the football game has nothing to do with the Giants. Turn drop passes by the Packers.
Yes.
Greg Jennings coming back off an injury, not having timing down. That's why they lost the football game.
I don't
want to hear all these Giant fans all up in arms like, we're going to great thing. We did an 07 and a miraculous catch and Eli Manning. Wait, it's not really.
If you really want to see the delusions and you really want to see the delusions and how quickly people change their position. Mm-hmm. I've heard several different sports broadcasts talk about how Eli Manning's going to turn out to have been a better quarterback than Peyton Manning.
All right, let's talk about this for a second. Shout out to Nsima Brown, who's a big New York Jets fan and gave me crap about the Giants winning. Whatever, y'all suck. But let's talk about this for a second.
That's Eric Bayless, Bayless.
I'm gonna get that nickname. I'm gonna get that podcast.
But don't dare call me any of the people they stick up against him on that show.
Oh,
those are fighting words. No.
All
right.
If Eli Manning wins a championship, calm down, New York fans. All of a sudden, there was a big groundswell when I said that. If Eli Manning wins another Super Bowl, would you say he is better than Peyton Manning?
Only in the postseason. You can make the argument that he's a better postseason player, but he's not a better football player. And honestly, it's silly to even make that argument because Peyton's been in the league longer, has been consistent longer.
Okay, Nick.
Not as good as Peyton. No way. Can I make a Y.A. Tittle reference?
Yes. By all means.
That was it.
Y.A. Tittle. Taste the rainbow.
Right, there you go. I will contend, because once again, someone needs to stand up for truth and righteousness. Eli Manning, if he wins another Super Bowl, must be ahead of his brother because championships matter.
Well, championships...
And Eli Manning...
so he's better. He's already better than Dan Marino in your book, then.
Who is Dan Marino?
This is a Dolphins fan.
Really?
Who is Dan Marino?
Dan Marino is the greatest quarterback ever played the game.
Are you serious?
I'm absolutely serious.
Is he better than Matt Moore?
I mean, it's close.
Okay.
Don't sleep on Matt Moore.
Yeah, look, championships matter, but they're not the only thing.
I agree. I mean, Trent Dilfer's not better than Dan Marino. I'm not saying that.
I mean, look at Elway, who was a fantastic player for most of his career and could not get Super Bowl wins until he got a legitimate running game. But that's not a critique of Elway. That's a critique of the Broncos offense.
Is that a minor shout out to UGA and Terrell Davis?
It is. Well, it's not a shout out to UGA because if Terrell Davis is that good, why doesn't he play that well while he's in college? That's UGA's problems. That's the University of Tennessee's problem. Great recruiting teams, poor coaching teams.
Yeah, talking about teams that are overrated.
I don't think Tennessee can be overrated at this point because they're not rated.
No,
I wish them well.
Oh, Georgia State going to Knoxville, Tennessee. Go play the Volunteers. Upset alert.
Shout out to my dad who I talked to about this game earlier today. My father is a outstanding high school football coach for many years. Says that the best SEC team for Georgia State to play is Tennessee in the sense that we have the best chance to beat them. Now, I'm not sure that Dad has thought that through really clearly. Maybe is he saying Vanderbilt's better? I guess he is. You can't say that in Knoxville and still live there. But the Georgia State men's team will be opening up against the Volunteers. We'll see exactly whether or not we can recover from the sorry-ass excuse for a year that we had this year.
All right.
Anyway, so those were our games.
Joe eats crow on the Giants. I still say the Giants suck. Moving on.
It's not just a river in Egypt.
There you go. This week's playoff game, for those of you who don't get that reference, is denial.
Denial. Get it? Denial.
Crickets.
Chirp. All right.
This week's playoff games. We got 2 championship matches. We've got the 49ers versus the Giants, who I may rename the Aints just because of the whole
Stop.
And we've got the Pats versus the Ravens. We're all going to pick, and we have a special picker today, Miss Zoe Bellon.
Zoe Bellon,
will be
my daughter.
Games. Now Zoe,
through no fault of her own.
Listen, Zoe is awesome. She's far more awesome than anything Ben Roethlisberger could ever do. Now, that being said,
that's a disturbing reference. You're talking about my daughter, son.
I said she's greater than Ben Roethlisberger.
Lucky this table is between us.
What?
All right, Zoe, we got 2 games. We'll let you pick the games, and then you can go to bed. We'll tell you who's playing each other and what their mascots are. Zoe generally picks on the strength of mascots. Eric, run through the games for her.
All right, so game number 1. The New York Football Giants versus the San Francisco 49ers. Why are they called the 49ers?
Because in 1849 there was a gold rush in California.
Boom!
Zoe knows it. All right, stand up. So you're going to have to speak louder so the microphone can hear you. So between those two, the Giants and the 49ers, who wins?
The Giants.
All right, Zoe's picking the Giants for the record. I have to say, on strength of mascot, the Giants probably doing pretty well there.
Yeah.
Although with all that gold, the 49ers can buy some serious firepower.
I would agree.
All right, the next game.
The next game is the New England Patriots versus the Baltimore Ravens.
Patriots versus Ravens. Who you got, Zoe?
Patriots.
Oh, not the rematch of 07.
Strong. The Patriots are armed. The Ravens can fly, but the Patriots are armed. All right, Zoe picks
down the birds.
Giants v. Patriots. They can shoot down the birds. All right, thanks, Zoe. Good picks.
Thanks, Zoe. Good night, Zoe.
Good night.
All
right. But before we do this, though, before we give our picks, I just want to say one thing. I think these games are amongst the hardest conference championship games to pick that I've seen in a while. I think each game is very difficult to predict. Do you want to start?
Let's let Uncle Nick.
All right. Crazy Uncle Nick, what are your picks?
The Giants versus the 49ers. I've got the 49ers all day long.
Why?
Strongly dislike the Giants.
Picking on emotion.
Picking on emotion. The 49ers moved me. But I've got Vernon Davis all day long. Alex Smith has come on strong. It's his time to shine. He's a good quarterback. I mean, it took him 7 years to get to 3,000 yards or whatever, but he's there. He's in the game. He's found his stride, and I got faith in Alex Smith.
I just want to say one thing about Alex Smith because I was doubting Alex Smith. I've been doubting him all week. And then today I was listening to ESPN Radio, and I was listening to the Doug Gottlieb show, and Doug Gottlieb said Alex Smith was a bad quarterback, and suddenly I realized Alex Smith is awesome. He must be a fantastic quarterback. So anyway, you've got the 49ers.
Right.
And the Patriots Ravens.
Uh-huh.
I've got the Patriots. Ravens are aging. Ray Lewis is getting up there. Ed Reed, never want to throw at him, but he's getting up there as well. Defense just isn't as strong as it used to be. Ray Rice is nobody to mess with. Great running back. But I think the Patriots can take this one.
Strong picks. All right. Let me talk about each one of these games. I think the Giants 49ers game is really hard to pick because each one of those teams you could interpret their previous game differently from two different ways. The rustling you hear in the background is nothing to do with consumption of anything bad for you. I assure all of our listeners. In any case, I think the Giants, you look at them and you say, all right, they played the Falcons. They did really well. Is that because the Giants are good or the Falcons are bad? It's not. It's hard to tell. They played the Packers. They did pretty well. Is it because the Packers had a bad game or the Giants are just really, really good? I don't know. I think in both cases you can make the argument. You can certainly make the argument the Falcons are terrible. You can make the argument, which Eric already has, that the Packers game was one of the Packers losing it rather than the Giants winning it. The same exact thing is true for the 49ers. The 49ers, is their offense good or is the Saints' defense terrible? And then if the 49ers' defense is so great, how do the Saints score at will at the end of that game? I don't know, but I'm still having trouble seeing the Giants playing well in that game, and I do think the 49ers are something of a team of destiny. At least when it comes to getting the Super Bowl, I'll pick the 49ers. I was wrong about the Giants. If I'm wrong about them again, you may very well see me going with New York in the Super Bowl.
All right, what about the Pats versus Ravens?
Pats-Ravens is hard as well. If the Ravens are so good, how do they allow a bad Texans team to score that many points? They're supposed to be dominating people and shutting them out. The real question in that game is the Patriots, and it's not their offense, which is obviously very good. It's their defense. Do they shut down the Broncos because the Broncos are just wretched and they finally showed their true colors? Or do they shut them down because Belichick decided to pay attention to the defense for a game? And I have to say, in that game, I picked the Pats.
Wow. Okay. All right. So it's time for.
Did I just go the same as Nick Shulo?
You agree with Nick Shulo?
Wow. Allow me to revise my picks. No, I'm going to stick with them.
You're in good company.
So you're all on the Pats. All right. Let me show you how you actually go 2-0 in these championship games. Give you a little bit of truth here. I'll start with the 49ers versus the Baltimore Ravens. Shout out to Shaq Diesel at Shaq Diesel on Twitter. Shaq, let us know what your fashion boutique stuff is. We'll shout you out. Shaq is a 49ers fan. And Seema, who also works with me, is a New York Jets fan. I like them dearly. They're two really good guys. Listen, and Seema, I'm sorry, your team sucks. Here's the thing about the defense of the 49ers. I think the New Orleans Saints offense is probably maybe the third greatest offense I've ever seen, next to the 07 Pats and the early Rams offenses. Now, those are very hard defenses to stop, or offenses to stop. I don't think Eli Manning is in that class of offense. And this is a rematch game. I think Eli will turn the ball over more than Alex Smith, which says a lot about Alex Smith.
Alex Smith did not turn the ball over this year.
No. And
his touchdown to turnover ratio is amazing. What is 5 turnovers the whole year?
Like
5 interceptions.
What I think will happen in this game is the 49ers will not turn the ball over. I think that the Giants will. I think that the running game will matter in this game. Look for Frank, because the running game is going to matter not because of yardage or Franco has a monster game, but you can't use all 4 of those defensive ends to rush the passer, meaning Alex Smith will have time to throw the football. I like the 49ers to win 31-20. I give scores because I'm that confident. I know what I'm talking about. Now, the Pats versus the Ravens. You might have heard me talk about this Ball So Hard University. Let me explain to you why. I'm taking the Ravens. I'm the only one taking the Ravens, and here's why. The Pats defense can control an inept quarterback and a team with no offense. Because all you do against Timbo is play man pressure and rush him and make him go to his left or right. Whichever is his opposite. This game is different. The Ravens will get to run the ball and play action pass. The hard thing about me in this game is I think the Ravens will score. My question is whether or not the Ravens can stop the Patriots enough. And I think Terrell Suggs has a great game rushing Tom Brady. And my entire premise for why this game is going to be won by the Ravens is based on 2 players. Ray Rice and Terrell Suggs. And I think the Ravens win in probably just as shocking fashion as they did when they went up to Foxborough a few years ago and stomped the Pats. I think the Ravens will win this game 27-17. 21.
So just to be clear, your analysis,
Mm-hmm.
your analysis is that Joe Flacco is going to perform, who's going to have to win that game.
I disagree.
You said they're going to run play action pass.
Well, but it's going to be based
So you
off
think-
Ray Rice.
all right,
Ray Rice, more so than Flacco.
You think it's Ray Rice, that Ray Rice can score more points than Tom Brady?
I think that you said this last week, and I think we still feel this way regardless of what happened last week. The Patriots defense is one of the worst defenses we have ever
Look,
seen.
what I said last week, and you can run back to MP3, is that YouTube is that the Patriots defense had looked terrible all year, but it's Belichick, so you always wonder if he can't pull something up, and he did. You can't look at that game and say it was just that the Broncos were bad, because the Broncos had scored points. The previous week, they had scored a lot of points on an admittedly really banged up Pittsburgh Steelers team, but Belichick found some things to talk about and to scheme against that team. How much harder is it to scheme against the Ravens than it is offense than it is to scheme against the Broncos?
I don't think the question is scheme. I think it's personnel. I think Flacco will not have to win this game for the Ravens. If he does, then that may be a problem.
Yeah.
However, I think Ray Rice will run all over the pass defense. I think that there will be some big plays in the passing game. Flacco may complete like 55% of his passes, but he have like maybe 3 touchdowns or 2. There'll be bombs. But you look for like 125 yards from Ray Rice. But on the opposite side of the football, I'm saying that the Ravens defense will put enough pressure on Tom Brady to get him off his spot, to make him uncomfortable, to where he cannot just stand up, throw passes to Gronkowski, Welker, and all those guys. But I think that the key in this game is Terrell Suggs versus the O-line of the Pats. I like Terrell Suggs.
I think the key in this game is Ray Rice. If Flacco has to win this game, it's over. Crazy Uncle Nick has something to say.
Will Ray Rice have more than 40% of the offensive production?
Yes.
For the Ravens.
Yes.
And so that means the Ravens aren't getting a lot of yards in that game.
You think that
you said he had 125 yards.
Well, define like
my math ain't great, but that's less than 300 yards in the game.
Hold on, that's running the football.
Oh, do you think he's going to catch the ball too?
Yeah, Ray Rice is a force catching the football. I think that Ray Rice total.
So that's Flacco now we're talking about.
That's fine. This is not Matt Ryan. Flacco has won a playoff game. My point is,
I think he's actually won a game every year, hasn't he?
He's won a game every year. Listen, don't sell Flacco short. He's got the arm strength, but Ray Rice will have close to 200 total yards. The Ravens defense will get about 4 to 5 sacks, maybe more than that. They're going to concentrate on Welker and Gronkowski, and they're going to dare Hernandez or whoever else is left to simply beat them. The Pats can't run the football on the Ravens. They will be one-dimensional. Terrell Suggs and the rest of that 3-4 defense will have a field day of rushing Tom Brady.
4 to 5 sacks for the Ravens defense.
Yes.
And 200 yards total for Ray Rice.
Yes.
Wow.
Is this a game of Madden?
No. This is the
Look,
guy.
I don't have to undersell Flacco because his defense is already doing it.
Listen, this will be the
publicly.
This will be the who's the coach for the 49ers and Ravens? Their brothers.
Oh, it's going to be the Harbaugh Bowl? You predict the Harbaugh Bowl.
I got the Harbaugh Bowl.
You hate his parents that much that they're going to have to sit there and watch one of their sons beat the other one.
Yes.
All right.
So those are our picks. Watch out, be 2-0 again. Let's go to let's have a quick conversation about soccer.
So Zoe Riversided you, by the way.
She did. She did. Me and Zoe are going
she may very well end up winning this.
If Zoe wins this could be an embarrassment to the podcast, or it just means Zoe needs to be on the podcast more.
That's right. More Zoe.
So shout out to Neil Blackman. We're going to talk about soccer.
I've got a lot to say about soccer. Apparently, Neil Blackman, friend of the program, friend of the show, is on the Sports Illustrated Soccer podcast because of his incredible proficiency with soccer. That's the end of our soccer conversation for today.
Soccer conversation. Thank you very much, Joe Bellon on soccer.
Woo!
Right.
Beckham's staying in L.A. That's the only thing I know.
I didn't like Beckham. It was a movie.
Saw it. Good movie.
What? All right.
You should watch the Ollie G interview with Beckham and his wife.
Ollie G.
Great stuff. YouTube it, kids.
Wow, here you go with those Ollie G references. All right.
Respect.
We're going to talk about this really quick, but I think this is important. The Rams have decided to play a home game in London each of the next 3 seasons. I think this is monumental because I think this could be a sign of the first NFL team to have a home base in London. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'm not sure you can say the Rams made that decision. Do you think it's their decision and not Goodell's?
I'm going to say this about Roger Goodell because we didn't have a lot to say about Roger Goodell, but I'm going to be nice on the podcast today. But my one premise is that I think Roger Goodell is not dumb enough to put a 2-14 team in London to sell football. I don't think that has anything to do with it.
So he's not trying to make the David Stern move and globalize the NFL.
I think he is, but I don't think he's using this team to do it.
Well, I mean, look, the team's got a new coach. They got a young quarterback that's got a lot of potential. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not going to be 2-14 next year.
They'll be 4-12.
I don't know.
They're playing the West.
We'll get closer to the year before we start talking about how many games the Rams are going to win. We'll see about the draft. We'll see about the offseason.
London is not a place for American football. I think if Goodell's going to expand somewhere, it's going to be somewhere in Canada first.
But they have hooligans there.
They do have hooligans.
That is true.
Hooligans are a natural match with football.
I agree. I agree. I think it is a natural match. I'm just confused why you would choose the Rams.
Rams would be my first choice to go.
No, that seems strange to me. But Goodell's made dumb choices before, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a weird move, but maybe it'll turn out to be genius.
Have you seen anybody in London wearing a Rams jersey?
I haven't been to London a lot, but no.
Good enough.
Shout out to Manchester United. Let's go. All right.
You violated our 5-second limit on soccer. How dare you?
All right, let's talk about the NBA. Let's talk about Kobe Bryant, who at last check was getting stomped by Orlando and got decimated by LeBron James. LeBron James, best player in the league. Do the Lakers need to make a trade? And if they do, should it be for a point guard or Dwight Howard?
That question's irrelevant. They are screwed. David Stern screwed them. They had a trade on the table.
With or without Vaseline?
They had a trade on the table for CP3. Say what you want about what Stern's motives were, what the sequence of events were. There's no question that sequence of events screwed the Lakers. They had to have either Paul or Howard. They had to. And they're going to end up with neither one of them. You don't even hear Howard talking about Los Angeles anymore. What are they going to trade?
Well, here's the problem. If you're watching the game right now, shout out to Joel Mule, who's probably crying because I think the Lakers are losing. Dwight Howard is dominating Andrew Bynum. And the problem with that is that makes Bynum's trade value shrink. Because a trade of Andrew Bynum and Gasol does not look as attractive right now.
They can't trade it. Well, I guess they could trade Bynum and Gasol for Howard.
The theory is that they will take those two.
But that'll put them in a position that I think is even worse depth-wise than what the Heat were facing, because the Heat had 3 big players. Absent Bynum and Gasol, you've got Kobe, you've got Dwight Howard. Who else do you have?
What's his name?
Devin Ebanks, West Virginia. Let's go Mountaineers.
All right. Well, Uncle Nick's well-placed sympathies aside,
right.
You got nobody on that team.
Here's my thing. There have been rumors that Devin Harris is on the trading block. He would be a perfect point guard. They need a point guard. Derek Fisher is not the guy that can play the point. Neither is
Fisher's old. He is close to retirement.
Sure, but he's not gonna. He can't hang with any of the elite point guards.
I mean that's why it's not his fault, but that's why.
Right. They should trade for a point guard.
Who?
Devin Harris is the best.
Have you heard Jerron Williams says he's out of the Nets if they don't get Howard? That's the news today.
So does that mean that
he'd look good in a Lakers jersey if you're a Lakers fan?
But that's a year away.
Yes,
and that's a year of Kobe being older.
That is also true. I'm not sure what they can do. I mean, maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't know what they can do. They had their ducks in a row, and Stern screwed them.
I agree. Which by proxy means they screwed Joel Mule. Let's talk about the Hawks for a second.
Stern, you might want to get yourself checked. Just saying.
Wow.
I've heard Devin Ebanks play all 5 positions on the floor. Let's go Ears.
Wow.
Mountaineers love.
There you go.
So thick you can cut it
Where
with a knife.
Get that? What podcast do you get West Mountaineers love at?
Yeah, that's based in Atlanta.
That's true. Let's talk about the Hawks really quick.
Speaking of needing a point guard.
No, Teague is fine.
Yeah, wow.
Teague is okay.
Wow.
Teague's okay.
Wow.
The problem with the Hawks has nothing to do with Teague per se. But I will say this, and let me do this is me eating this isn't minor crow. This is like me eating like a crow nugget.
Coming soon to McDonald's near you.
There you go. Al Horford going down. Josh Smith looks like the best player on the team.
He's trying hard.
It's confusing.
He's trying hard. This is what it looks like when Josh Smith tries hard. Don't be fooled. It won't last.
Yes.
We lost to the 76ers by 14 points today.
You do
The
understand that
76ers.
I think they've only lost 2 games all season.
We lost to the 76ers by 14 points. I feel like I'm in some kind of strange alternate universe.
Somewhere Will Teal is enjoying this moment. Shout out Will Teal. That's right. I'm using this podcast as Will Teal shout-outs. The Hawks are terrible. But the Hawks' terribleness is masking a bigger issue of this team needs to be blown up.
Yes.
And no one wants to believe me.
What are you talking about? Look, when Joe Johnson was up for that deal, I said, don't sign him. Everybody said, we have to pay him all this money because he's all we have, and without him, we'll blow the team up. And I said, yes. I think there were a lot of Atlanta fans that felt the same way I did, that felt like if you have to give Joe Johnson up and you have nothing for a while, that's better than locking in mediocrity. And in some cases, less than mediocrity.
I thought they would have done a sign and trade, which would have made sense, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, his salary is so big now under the new agreement. There's no way you can get rid of him.
Yes, it is. We still have not used our amnesty clause. The theory is that the Hawks will use it next year as a way of saying, we've gone as far as this team can go now. Because, in theory, there's no one you can use it for this year that will give you cap space.
All right, well, this is the only question that matters for this year. Has Josh Smith's play so far convinced you that we ought to not trade him?
Absolutely not. It means the trade value is better.
Okay.
But what should happen is this. The Atlanta Hawks are going to amnesty Joe Johnson next season. They should then put a package together, a trade package, and then go out and trade, like, say, Josh Smith and,
say it.
They should trade him for, say, like,
who else?
Saul. Marvin Williams, no one wants him. Sorry. But they should use that available
Chris Paul, I love you.
I'm sure you do.
I'm sorry we didn't draft you.
I'm sure you are. But the Hawks will take a strong look at signing Darren Williams, who I think will come here. Because if you have Al Horford and you have, say, some combination of Josh Smith or Paul Gasol or some other power forward, and you have some guys that play defense, because amazingly the Hawks can play defense somehow. I think that's a formidable kind of five you may have.
Look, that's a great idea, but I think you and I both know I've been a Hawks fan a really long time. We will not improve as a team with this ownership group. We are not a real franchise.
Have pitchers and catchers reported yet? Uncle Nick, what former West Virginia?
So Liberty Media is better than the Spirit Group.
I think it's about time for a John Flowers shout-out, averaging 19.9 points in the Japanese League. Let's go, John Flowers. J. Flo, West Virginia.
Where else do you get that
Consistency.
From? Right.
That's our specialty. All right, last thing on the NBA before we move on.
All right, let's talk about...
last thing on the NBA before we move on.
Right.
Are you calling the Heat now? Because they look great.
I've been on the Heat bandwagon. They will win the championship. There is not... Listen, when Dwayne Wade is healthy, there's not a single team that will come close to touching them in the play.
Who's their biggest competition? East or West? Sure as heck ain't the Mavs the way they've been.
It's not the Mavs. It's not the Bulls as currently constructed. Although I heard a rumor of a package involving Dang and Boozer for Dwight Howard.
Wow.
That's a rumor that's out there.
Wow.
Which could change some dynamics. It's definitely a Boston. There's a room. They may break up the big three. There is not a team within shouting distance.
Who's in the West that's good enough to play with them?
The best team in the West right now. Portland is playing well.
Oklahoma City?
Oklahoma City is the closest thing.
Westbrook just re-upped. They're not breaking that team up.
No,
that
team's
shocks
going to be
me.
together for a long time. I love Westbrook. They'll work that out. But the problem is that when you have Bosh, LeBron, and Wade, there's never been a threesome that talented to play in the NBA, in my opinion.
I don't know about that.
Name a threesome.
Magic, Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I'll take Wade, LeBron, and Bosh.
Yeah, that is insane.
Jordan Pippen.
Magic is as good or better than
You're talking about old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not young.
I'm talking about when those three played together. I'm not talking about Lou Alcindor.
Sure.
Magic was as good or better than LeBron James. Magic might have been the greatest basketball player ever.
I would take him. No, I would take Oscar Robertson.
Okay, well, that's a hard. You're not gonna get much of an argument from me, but he's up there. He's in the conversation.
Sure, absolutely.
Kareem, also in the conversation, is as good or better than Dwayne Wade. Certainly better than Bosch. But you have to say Kareem Dwayne when it comes to talent level, and James Worthy is better than Bosch. One of the greatest open court players to ever play the game.
Here's my thing about what would happen in that game.
No. They can't even talk about that because you can't have eras playing each other.
No. I'm not having eras. I'm just simply saying this. They couldn't run with LeBron, this team. And
All
I
right.
think the way he will play.
So you're calling the Heat. At this point, I'm calling the Heat too.
I'm calling the Heat, and I don't think it's close. Okay, Nick?
The Heat.
All right.
Not close.
Sweep it.
All right.
All right, last topic. Once again, I apologize. Joe Bellon's going to talk about boxing.
I'm fixing to talk about boxing.
Fixing it. Floyd Mayweather places a phone call. Don't know how much it
Hobo
costs.
fights next week. Next week on the podcast.
NASCAR?
What's that?
Floyd Mayweather places a phone call to Manny Pacquiao. Says a 50-50 split is not what we'll do.
I like how that's what you lead with.
That's fine. Manny Pacquiao, for whatever reason, is cowering behind Bob Arum.
That is a lie.
Why?
What? Look, this is what happens.
I am Eric Bayless.
This is what happens. Mayweather decides, and I think he's actually right about this, that the reason that Pacquiao's not fighting him isn't Pacquiao, it's Pacquiao's management, which is something that I said last week on this podcast.
No, I think I agree with you.
So Mayweather calls Pacquiao and says, look, let's get this fight done. I'm with my people. I don't think your people are with you.
Agreed.
Do you really want to have the fight? Pacquiao, according to Mayweather, then says, I want a 50-50 split, which Mayweather, being his normal, humble self, says, that just can't happen. But you'll make more money fighting me than you'll make the whole rest of your career, which is clearly a lie. But whatever, like, the end result of this conversation, no, it's not. Pacquiao's made a lot of money.
He will make more money in this fight.
Even with a 60-40 split.
No. The rumor is, and shout out to Dan Raphael, is that a split will be in the neighborhood of like 53 to 47.
Yeah, that's more reasonable.
It's reasonable.
Whatever, they'll both make a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Pacquiao's response is that he's going to go to his retreat, spend some time alone, speak to the Lord, and then see whether or not he's going to fight Mayweather. This is my question, because I think all the rest of the sideshow surrounding this is irrelevant.
Okay.
Does Pacquiao say yes?
No.
You don't think he does?
No.
I think he does.
No. I think Manny would say yes, but I think he acquiesces too much to his management.
Well, now he's been called out in public, though. I think he comes back and says, yes, I think this fight gets done before the prison sentence. If that's not the case, Pacquiao comes out and says yes, but they fight after the prison sentence. I'm now optimistic about this fight.
Freddie Roach is on record as saying there will be interim bouts, which I think everybody's tired of because there's no one to fight.
That's irrelevant.
I agree, but that the fight will take place in November, which I disagree with. Here's my problem with this fight. There are a bunch of boxing people who are all involved here and too many egos. However,
that's a shock. It's boxing, and there's a lot of sketchy people and ego involved.
What are you saying? What we're trying to say about Don King?
It must be a day ending in Y.
Don King?
I love America. Only in America. Could I be a crook?
Did he promote the Rocky fight? I don't know. Anyway,
that fight was fixed.
It
was scripted.
Here's the thing about Pacquiao. I think the worst thing that happened to his team is Manny Pacquiao was their meal ticket. And
still is.
Sure, but in a scenario in which he fights Floyd and loses badly, he's no longer the meal ticket. And I think
how does that matter given the amount of money they're going to make off that fight?
Because they're trying to get maybe 1 or 2 more fights out of it. Like greed
that's a terrible argument.
Sure, but greed begets greed. These are greedy people.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
I maintain Pacquiao's people don't like Mayweather, and
no, I agree, but
but I think Mayweather actually has done something really smart in making this public end around everybody and publicly talking to Pacquiao.
Uh-huh.
And now that Pacquiao has confirmed this conversation actually happened,
right,
and he's announced he's going to go out and think about it, I think this fight happens. I think that's Pacquiao's way of saving face, of getting together with his management team and telling them to fall in line, and I think this fight's going to happen.
I worry that for some reason that I don't know if, for lack of a better word, I can't think of another phrase. I don't know if Manny has the balls to tell his management group that he wants to fight.
Really? Manny Pacquiao?
Because
that's ridiculous.
Here's why I will say this. And I'm going to give you a little bit of history lesson because you don't know anything about boxing.
I forgot about that.
You sure did.
When I was watching boxing before you were born, that was, yeah.
So you're older, by like 10 years.
Millions of hits.
Millions of hits.
I'll give you a really good example. Shane Mosley,
Sugar Shane,
before he decrepitly declined, wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather when he fought Floyd. Manny Pacquiao people said, we don't want to fight Shane, go fight Floyd first. You haven't earned the shot, even though he destroyed Margarito, who Manny Pacquiao didn't win the fight. Afterwards, after Floyd annihilated Shane Mosley, they're like, oh yeah, we'll fight him now. I think Manny Pacquiao, for whatever reason, I don't know what the reason is he caters too much to his management team. If Manny Pacquiao was making the decision by himself, this deal would be done.
No, I agree with you about that, but there's a difference between saying if it was just Manny, the deal would get done, and saying that Manny doesn't have the balls to say no to his own management team.
I don't think I have the balls.
This guy is an incredibly successful boxer. He is a member of the political function in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing about this guy that says he backs down from anything. And you have concluded through a series of kind of unrelated events that he doesn't have the guts to say no to his own management team.
I don't think he has the guts.
No, I think like a lot of boxers, he relies on his management team to make good decisions on his behalf. They don't always do that. That is the story of boxing in the modern era. It's certainly the story of boxing since Mike Tyson, but that's a ridiculous statement, and it's non-disprovable. No matter what happens, you'll say that it was true.
Here's the thing. You bring up the name Mike Tyson. Now, I want to make this very clear. When Mike Tyson wanted to fight someone, Mike Tyson fought that guy.
Clearly, you haven't read or heard anything about Tyson's career from Tyson.
No. I know about
that is not true.
But if
Mike Tyson was bamboozled and stolen from.
No. That's a separate argument than Mike Tyson wanted to fight this guy. Mike Tyson wanted to fight Holyfield. He fought Holyfield. Mike Tyson wanted to fight Lennox Luke. Well, he may not have wanted to fight Lennox.
I was going to say.
He probably didn't want to.
Yeah. But he didn't want to fight Holyfield the second time.
But my point is this. I think he kind of did, and I think he didn't realize that Holyfield was pretty tough. My point is this.
This is all speculation.
Everything we do on the podcast is speculation.
But you're attributing motives to people and talking about how people felt and what their outcomes were.
But you said that you think that they feel like that they don't like Mayweather. My point is, Manny Pacquiao, if Manny Pacquiao, here's the thing. If Manny Pacquiao comes out tomorrow and say, I want to fight Floyd Mayweather, but Bob Arum says no.
He will never say that.
That's my point.
That is why your argument is non-disprovable.
He's a ballless bastard, and he refuses to get in the ring fight.
You say that with Manny in the room. I don't care that you're a foot tall.
I will whoop Manny Pacquiao's ass.
Really?
He can't walk through my fire. He can't walk through my fire.
Your fire is not very hot anymore, dude.
I get a shit.
Prediction. Eric Mathis gets a Mike Tyson face tattoo before Manny Pacquiao.
That's right. I don't know. Wow. Wow.
I mean, that fight never happens.
That means Eric passed out in the wrong place in Vegas if that happens. I have a hard time with that. You go full beard at that point just to get rid of the facial tattoo. This fight's gonna. I'm now convinced the fight's gonna happen. It may not, but if it doesn't, it's ridiculous to say that it's because Manny Pacquiao has no guts, because there's really nothing that suggests that.
Last thing on this topic. Uncle Nick, who wins the fight?
Pacquiao. Millions of hits.
Interesting.
I don't know. Pacquiao looked bad in his last fight, but I'm a believer that heart matters, and I think Pacquiao has more heart. I think he wins that fight.
I like Manny Pacquiao as a person. We've made a bunch of comments, but I want to say this. I think as a person, I think Manny Pacquiao is what you would want in a celebrity athlete.
Clearly over Mayweather.
Sure. But I've said it once, I said it again. I think styles make fights. If he struggles against Marquez, I think he has problems with a guy in Mayweather who lives and breathes boxing. But it's a fight that we have to see. It'd be like if Leonard never fought Hagler.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I almost don't care who wins that fight. I want that fight to happen. I want there to be a boxing match that matters, that's a cultural event, that people across spectrums want to see, that people who don't know anything or care anything about boxing wants to see, and boxing needs it to happen. If it were a legitimate sport, it would have happened a long time ago. It's not. It's not organized.
You like NASCAR and horse racing?
Yes. That is my passion is for the horses.
Shout out to the NASCAR fans. Jimmy Johnson.
Danica Patrick. That's the extent of our knowledge, NASCAR fans.
Oh, wait, are they fans of us?
I can't imagine how that would be the case.
I bet you, if Jimmy Johnson could get a podcast in his NASCAR car, he'd listen to us.
Who is he?
He drives a NASCAR.
Makes a lot of money driving for NASCAR.
Wins
there you go.
All
right, kids.
I'll look him up next time.
Remember, next week we'll be back previewing A game whose name we cannot say for fear of getting sued by the National Football League.
Oops.
But nevertheless, it will feature the teams that win this week's game.
There you go. Can we please get 100 views? This will be up on coming soon. We're going to have an email address. You can email us questions. We'll shout you out. Retweet it to your friends. Send it out. On behalf of myself, Uncle Nick, Big Joe, Missed on Points Podcast, we're done.